Pretti, on the ground, loses his coat.
Have you activated the National Guard?
Yes, the answer is yes, we have. They killed a man, created chaos, pushed down protesters, threw gas indiscriminately, and then left the scene, and then we're left to clean up.
A Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots.
In separate posts on social media, senior White House aide Stephen Miller referred to the person shot as, quote, a would-be assassin and a domestic terrorist.
National Guards are actively arresting ICE agents in Minnesota right now, and the situation is getting more dangerous by the hour. State forces have stepped in because federal agents crossed lines they were never supposed to cross and then tried to lock the truth behind closed doors. Streets are tense. Videos are spreading faster than official statements. This is what happens when force replaces judgment and secrecy replaces accountability.
We've seen this from every angle, and to have to be lied to by our government and saying that like it was something other than it was when we see video evidence of it, it's staggering that that someone who is a veteran administration nurse was executed by the government he was serving as well.
This all traces back to Operation Metro Surge. In January 2026, federal presence exploded from about 80 officers to nearly 3,000 agents inside Minneapolis. No border, no invasion. Just raw federal power dropped into a winter city. Streets turned tense overnight, cameras started rolling, and the official version began cracking almost immediately. Alex Pretti was a citizen, not a suspect, and that matters right now. He was 37, an ICU nurse trusted to keep people alive in their worst moments. He had no violent record. He was not running. He was not attacking anyone.
Federal agents killed another person in Minneapolis Saturday morning, and anger is again rising over the agent's presence in the state.
I can't stand this anymore. I can't stand what's happening here.
Videos showed him clearly holding a phone as agents slammed him to the ground. His hands were visible. There was no weapon. Seconds later, shots were fired. That phone destroyed the official story before it even finished forming, and that is exactly why this moment still burns.
We want ICE off our street!
We want ICE off our street! ICE out of Portland!
It was absolutely devastating to watch someone be executed. We've seen this from every angle.
The federal story moved fast and loud. DHS said Pretti approached agents with a handgun and violently resisted. The phrasing was tight, rehearsed, and familiar. It sounded like every press line written to close a case before it opens. Then the footage surfaced. Reuters reviewed it. The BBC reviewed it. The Associated Press reviewed it.
The Department of Homeland Security says the 37-year-old had a 9mm semi-automatic handgun with 2 magazines. It's unclear whether he was holding the gun when he was shot.
Frame by frame, the videos showed Pretti on his knees, phone in hand, being pinned down before shots were fired. The claim of a weapon in his hand never appears. The contradiction sits there in plain sight, daring anyone to explain how reality failed to cooperate with the press release.
The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots.
This shooting did not stand alone. It landed on top of another death. Earlier in the same month, Renee Good, also 37, was killed by federal immigration agents in Minneapolis. 2 citizens dead. 2 encounters framed as justified. 1 city. 1 month. Patterns do not announce themselves with banners. They repeat quietly until denial becomes embarrassing. By the second shooting, embarrassment was gone. Outrage took its place.
The officer who fatally shot Minneapolis man during protest is an 8-year Border Patrol veteran, federal officials say. Family members say the man killed by a U.S. Border Patrol officer in Minneapolis on Saturday.
Minneapolis reacted the way cities react when explanations stop making sense. People poured into the streets. Chants cut through the cold. ICE out. Protesting is not a crime. Those words echoed because they fit the moment. Demonstrations filled downtown blocks and spread outward. New York, Boston, San Francisco, Los Angeles, different cities, same anger. The videos traveled faster than any official statement, and they carried more credibility than any podium. Protesters asked for transparency and demanded ICE leave Minnesota. They pointed to the footage. They pointed to Pretti's phone. They pointed to the fact that helping someone up from the ground now came with a death sentence delivered by agents who claimed fear after control was already established. The ask was simple. Tell the truth. Show accountability. Step back.
Minneapolis's mayor condemned the incident and is calling on the Trump administration to end the ICE operation in the city.
The invasion of these heavily armed masked agents roaming around on our streets of Minneapolis, emboldened with a sense of impunity, it has to end. This is not how it has to be.
The federal response escalated instead of clarifying. Tear gas drifted through crowds. Chemical irritants followed. Detentions happened quickly. Access to legal counsel became difficult. Observers described confusion and force layered on top of grief. The tactics felt designed to exhaust rather than inform. When people cannot get answers, they get louder. That is human behavior.
A very somber scene here in Minneapolis. This is the area where that 37-year-old was killed, and you have people coming to essentially kneel down. Some people have been crying and essentially paying their respects to that man.
Pressure reached Washington. Members of Congress from both parties called for independent investigations. Republicans and Democrats spoke the same sentence for once. Review the shooting. Review the tactics. Review the presence. The bipartisan tone did not come from strategy. It came from videos that refused to go away.
And he was very upset with what was happening in Minneapolis and throughout the United States with ICE, as millions of other people are upset.
At the state level, the response finally matched the scale of the crisis. Governor Tim Walz activated the Minnesota National Guard. The decision came as unrest grew and trust collapsed. Local police needed support. Communities needed reassurance. The Guard arrived under state authority, not federal command, and that distinction mattered more than uniforms or vehicles. Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey demanded a state-led investigation. They rejected federal control over the process. They asked for transparency. The request was direct. Minnesota would handle Minnesota. The message landed clearly. This was a boundary being drawn, not a gesture.
The frustration you have, and as you saw this, they killed a man, created chaos, pushed down protesters, threw gas indiscriminately, and then left the scene, and then we're left to clean up. I understand the anger. I understand trying to parse who were the law enforcement on the scene.
The Guard's presence changed the atmosphere. Their role centered on support and safety. They assisted with staffing. They protected perimeters. They stood alongside local officers rather than towering over civilians. The posture communicated restraint. It suggested that public order did not require intimidation, even during anger.
And Minnesotans can express their First Amendment rights and have our folks on the streets and get these people out of here. And so, John, if you want to talk a little bit, but the answer is yes, there's activated. He can talk to you about numbers.
Behind the scenes, friction grew. As the Guard worked to stabilize the city, federal agents blocked state investigators from accessing the original shooting scene. The obstruction deepened suspicion. When authority hides instead of cooperating, it invites conclusions. Trust erodes quickly. Minneapolis watched closely, measuring every silence, every delay, every excuse offered by officials. When the National Guard stepped in, the story shifted from outrage to accountability. State authorities began tracking how information was being handled after Alex Pretti was killed. Attention focused on who controlled the narrative and who controlled the facts. Reports circulated that a Guard operation identified an ICE agent involved in concealing the shooter's identity. That allegation alone cracked the federal shield. Transparency collapsed the moment a name became a liability rather than a responsibility.
You know, kidnapping children, just grabbing people off the street. He cared about those people. And he knew it was wrong. So he did participate in the protests. He cared about people deeply, and he was very upset with what was happening in Minneapolis and throughout the United States.
Federal commanders responded with silence packaged as procedure. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino appeared before cameras and avoided the simplest question. He would not say whether the shooter was identified. He would not say whether a weapon was ever seen in Pretti's hands. He leaned on the phrase ongoing investigation like it was a badge. The refusal fueled suspicion because clarity requires courage, and evasion invites doubt.
Those details just coming in as more lawmakers join calls for Secretary Kristi Noem to resign.
A preliminary DHS report into the incident obtained by NBC News confirmed that 2 federal officers fired their guns during this encounter.
Local officials pressed harder. Legal advocates pointed to due process and public trust. 2 citizens were dead in the same city within weeks. Withholding a shooter's name under those conditions felt deliberate. Minnesota officials argued accountability cannot exist without identification. The guard's posture signaled the state would not wait politely while federal agencies circled wagons. The guard's intervention carried symbolism beyond logistics. State forces rarely confront federal law enforcement over transparency. This moment suggested a line had been crossed. Minnesota framed the action as protection of civic order. Critics saw it as overdue resistance to immunity culture. Either way, the message landed. Federal authority was no longer unquestioned inside state borders.
They do not feel safe, and they don't want ICE or federal agents in their cities. So despite the freezing temperatures, they're out here trying to get that message across.
Washington answered with spin. President Trump defended the agents and labeled Pretti an agitator. The language escalated fast and ignored video evidence already seen by millions. Words tried to outrun footage. They failed. Casting a nurse holding a phone as a threat asked the public to suspend eyesight. That gamble collapsed trust further. Beyond Minneapolis, the implications widened. The case fused immigration enforcement with civil liberties. Protest rights, filming police, and public presence became fault lines. The death of a citizen during a protest reframed enforcement as suppression. That reframing spread quickly.
We need 10 times, 100 times more people. It's not going to stop unless everybody gets out in the streets.
Operation Metro Surge revealed its footprint. 2 fatal shootings in 1 month highlighted tactics unsuited for dense urban settings. Heavy deployments amplified risk. Training designed for border encounters translated poorly to city streets. The results spoke for themselves. Public trust eroded steadily. Blocking state investigators, withholding names, and defending contradictions hardened skepticism. Communities stopped expecting answers. They expected control. That expectation reshapes democracy in dangerous ways.
This is after that shooting that was recorded on video, and many have already watched as this man was held down on the ground by federal agents, surrounded, and then shot. You can hear multiple shots in that video. The Department of Homeland Security saying that that man had a handgun and that they were not able to disarm him.
Media cycles tightened. Analysts compared statements with timestamps. Discrepancies accumulated quickly. Officials answered fewer questions. Silence filled the remainder. Protesters absorbed the lesson. Presence invited force. Documentation invited denial. Chance sharpened. Resolve hardened.
There's also a lot of anger here in Minneapolis. You're going to see a lot of protesters who, despite the freezing temperatures, have been out here to say that they want ICE out of their city.
The guard's stance steadied streets. Uniforms signaled restraint. Coordination replaced chaos. Authority looked local. That image mattered. State power found confidence. Federal agencies faced scrutiny. Transparency entered the conversation. Accountability gained allies. The case continues shaping expectations. Minnesota refuses erasure. Names matter. Videos persist. Pressure remains. Outcomes will follow. States are watching carefully. Boundaries are tested. Power shifts visibly now. Accountability demands persistence from everyone involved here.